On a chilly afternoon, David Thompson, an elderly man with a simple demeanor, walked into a luxurious car dealership. His steps went unnoticed, and no one could have guessed that behind his humble appearance lay a vast fortune amassed through years of smart investments and sharp business decisions. David lived a simple life, driving a car that was nearly 15 years old. No ostentation, no competition. He believed in the true value of humility and sincerity. But today, in this glittering space filled with lights and the chatter of strangers, he was about to face an unforgettable insult, a shock that only those who value silence can truly grasp its significance. David Thompson was born into a poor family, where every day was a battle to put food on the table. His family survived by selling small goods at a tiny market, where old wooden tables were piled high with simple wares. Rain or shine, the entire family had to wake up early and work tirelessly to make ends meet. David's parents taught him that regardless of the circumstances, perseverance and hard work were the keys to changing one's life. On dimly lit evenings as the family shared meals, David often dreamed of escaping poverty and achieving something greater for his family. As he grew up, David relentlessly sought knowledge and opportunities. He started with small jobs, but with a sharp mind and an intense desire to rise, he quickly realized that only business could change his destiny. However, the path David chose was far from easy. He faced countless challenges, from failures to major setbacks in his work. There were moments when everything seemed to collapse, but he never gave up. With every failure, he stood up, learned, and found ways to start over. Gradually, wise decisions and strategic investments helped David build a strong business empire. Even after achieving success, David never forgot those difficult days. He lived a modest life, upholding the values of humility instilled by his family. Despite his immense wealth, he never flaunted or boasted about it. David understood that true wealth could not be measured by material possessions, but by the peace within and the ability to help others. His tough past had shaped him into a man admired not for his money, but for his patience, humility, and profound perspective on life. On a crisp autumn afternoon, David Thompson drove his car, which had been his companion for over a decade, to a renowned car dealership in the city. Although the car still ran well, he felt it was time for a change and to choose a new vehicle. His eyes landed on a luxury model the dealership had just received, a car he was sure would add a touch of elegance to his life. While he was a man of simplicity and humility, David knew how to appreciate high-quality products. However, as he stepped into the bustling showroom, wearing an old coat and worn-out shoes, the reaction of the sales staff made him feel a palpable sense of discrimination. The salespeople in their sleek suits rushed to attend to younger customers dressed stylishly and exuding wealth. The hum of car engines being tested and the busy atmosphere of the afternoon added to the lively environment. David quietly walked in, hoping to find someone who could assist him. He moved from one car to another, carefully examining the gleaming exteriors and glossy paint, but he felt a cold detachment and an unspoken sense of being unwelcome. David continued to walk along the rows of cars, his eyes keenly observing every detail. Each car radiated beauty and perfection, something he had once dreamed of owning, yet he felt the atmosphere of the place was not meant for him. After a while, he stopped in front of an expensive sports car, the car he had long desired. He stood there in awe, soaking in every flawless curve of the vehicle. David approached the reception desk, where three employees were engrossed in lively conversation. He stood still for a moment, observing them, and then calmly but resolutely began to speak. "Excuse me, I'm interested in this car," he said, pointing to the luxury sports car he had been eyeing earlier. "Could you provide me with more information about it?" One of the employees glanced at David's worn-out coat, his expression laced with disdain. Slowly, the employee responded, "You're probably just admiring the car, right? You don't actually intend to buy it, do you? These cars aren't meant for people like you." Although David sensed the insult in the man's words, he maintained his composure. "I have great respect for my choices," he replied calmly. "I just want to learn more about the product before making a decision." Feeling disrespected, the employee continued in a mocking tone. "So, you want this car? I think it'll take you quite a while to afford it. If you don't have anything else you need, I'll excuse myself to assist real customers who can actually pay for it." David felt a quiet anger building inside him, but he didn't let it show. He simply looked at the employees serenely before turning back to continue admiring the car. Not long after, another staff member, seemingly the team leader, approached with an unwelcoming demeanor. He scrutinized David from head to toe, his gaze openly disdainful. "What are you doing here?" the team leader asked. "You're just here for fun, aren't you? These cars aren't for people like you. Would you prefer a used car or something cheaper?" His voice carried no attempt to mask his disrespect. David took a deep breath to steady himself. Though he felt hurt, he still tried to remain courteous. "I just want to learn about this product, and I believe every customer deserves to be treated fairly." Instead of listening, the employee smirked and walked away, ignoring David. The atmosphere in the showroom grew tense, with whispered comments and faint chuckles that David could hear behind him. They were ridiculing him, dismissing him as an unimportant customer, unworthy of owning the car they were selling. A short while later, as David quietly observed the cars in the showroom, he noticed the dealership manager, a man in a sleek black suit, approaching. The manager's eyes swept over David with thinly veiled hostility before he spoke, his tone commanding. "Sir, please leave immediately," the manager said impatiently. "We're expecting a visit from the board, and I don't want someone dressed like you standing in the showroom." David stood still, meeting the manager's gaze, feeling the full weight of his contempt. Unlike the earlier employees, the manager made no effort to hide his scorn. "I don't think I've done anything wrong," David replied, his voice steady and calm. "I'm just here to learn about a car." The manager took a long breath, narrowing his eyes as though his patience had run out. "You don't get it," he said, his tone almost barking. "We have more important customers to serve, people who dress well and can afford these cars. You are not one of them, and I don't want to waste my time on someone who can't pay." David didn't respond immediately. He quietly observed the manager, feeling his patience wearing thin. Yet, instead of letting emotions take over, he simply replied softly, "I see. But I believe everyone deserves fair treatment, regardless of what they wear or how much money they have." The manager, now visibly irritated, stepped closer with a hardened expression, as if determined to drive David out immediately. "All right, if you don't leave, I'll have you escorted out. There's nothing more to discuss." David turned one last time to glance at the cars, his eyes growing sharper with resolve. Standing tall, he didn't let the insults shake him. A brief moment of silence passed, before he turned and began to walk away, slowly, feeling no sense of defeat. He knew that one day everything would change. As he neared the door, a firm hand suddenly grabbed him. Turning back, David was surprised to see a young man who appeared to be a new employee at the dealership. The young man looked at him with friendly eyes, seemingly intent on stopping him. "Excuse me, sir, please don't leave just yet," the young man said earnestly, his face serious, but his eyes filled with enthusiasm. "I'm new here, and if you don't mind, I'd like to invite you to take another look at this car." David paused, observing the young man. He seemed different from the others at the dealership. There was no disdain in his demeanor, only a genuine and eager attitude. "Oh, I don't think I'm interested anymore," David replied, but the young man continued, his eyes shining with passion. "Actually, this car is my favorite model," the young man explained, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. "I know everything about it, from its features to its performance. I really want you to have a chance to learn about it, if you have a moment." David looked at the young man, then back at the car he was pointing to. Though still a bit surprised by the invitation, the young man's sincerity made it hard to refuse. "All right, I'll hear what you have to say," David replied, his eyes still on the car. "Tell me, what makes this car special?" With a bright smile, the young man began explaining. "This is a premium model, elegantly designed yet incredibly powerful, with a robust engine and exceptional performance. Its safety features are also noteworthy, incorporating the latest technologies. And most importantly, it's highly fuel efficient, a rarity in this segment." David listened attentively, intrigued. Though he had already researched many car models, he found himself impressed by the young man's knowledge and enthusiasm. They continued discussing the car's features, from its luxurious interior to the modern technologies it offered. "You're clearly very knowledgeable about this car," David said, his expression softening, a faint smile appearing on his lips. "Thank you for sharing. I didn't expect such an engaging conversation here." As the conversation between David and the young employee grew more lively, the showroom door suddenly swung open, and the manager stepped in. His face remained stern, but his eyes betrayed a clear dissatisfaction. Spotting the young man chatting with a customer, he marched over, his voice cutting like a blade. "What is going on here?" the manager barked, his gaze sharp. "What are you doing talking to someone who doesn't even look like a potential buyer? This is a workplace, not a coffee shop." The young employee raised his head, his face calm yet resolute. "I'm helping him understand a car he's genuinely interested in," he replied firmly. "He's not homeless or a beggar. Just because he isn't dressed like our usual customers doesn't mean he doesn't deserve respect." The manager scoffed, dismissing the explanation. "You don't get it. This is a luxury car dealership, not a charity," he snapped. "We don't have time for people who can't afford these cars, especially when we have an executive board arriving soon for inspection. You're ruining this dealership's image." The young man felt anger rising within him, but kept his composure. "Sir, I disagree. This man is a customer and deserves to be treated like anyone else, regardless of his appearance. I won't stay silent while someone is disrespected simply because of how they look." The manager's fury escalated, his face reddening. "Are you lecturing me on how to do my job?" he roared. "You're just a rookie here. Know your place, or I'll fire you on the spot." "Then do it," the young man said, his eyes unwavering. "If standing up for what's right costs me this job, so be it. but I won't tolerate anyone being treated poorly because of their appearance or financial status." The manager stood frozen, stunned by the defiance. His anger flared hotter. "You're joking, right? Fine. You're fired. Get out of here and don't come back." The young man remained unshaken, standing tall as he turned to David once more, his gaze filled with determination. "Thank you for letting me assist you, sir. I hope you find the car you love." David could no longer remain a passive observer. His heart pounded as indignation boiled within him. Throughout his life, he had believed in fairness and patience, but today he realized that silence could equate to complicity. Leaving the showroom, he made a decision, one that would change everything. That night, he purchased the entire dealership. The next morning, as the sun's rays lit up the city, David was no longer the unassuming man in a worn coat. He arrived at the showroom dressed in a sharp, expensive suit, exuding authority. His entrance left the staff speechless, their eyes wide with disbelief. Before anyone could recognize him, David strode directly into the manager's office. The atmosphere grew tense as silence swept through the showroom. Everyone watched, their curiosity mounting. David stood silently for a moment, observing the stillness. Before he spoke, his voice steady and commanding. "You're all probably wondering who I am. Let me introduce myself. I am the new owner of this dealership, and I have something to say to everyone, especially you," David said, his gaze locking onto the manager. The manager stared back, bewildered and uneasy, though he clung to his arrogance. He didn't fully grasp the situation, assuming it was a prank. "Who are you to come in here talking like this?" he asked, his voice shaking. David remained unruffled, his tone firm yet calm. "I'm the person here to teach you about respect. You thought you could treat people however you wanted? Yesterday, you made a grave mistake, assuming I was just an old man with no significance. Today, you'll learn that no one can get away with such behavior forever." Stepping closer with unwavering confidence, David pointed at the manager. "You don't deserve to hold this position. Effective immediately. You're fired. Leave this place at once." The manager stood paralyzed, his lips trembling as his arrogance dissolved into shame and humiliation. Turning on his heel, he left without another word, consumed by defeat. David turned to the young employee from the previous day. "You," he called, his voice warm yet authoritative. "You stood up for what's right. I want you to take his position." The young man froze, astonishment and gratitude lighting up his face. "Really?" he stammered, his eyes brimming with disbelief. "Sir, I don't know what to say." David smiled gently, his eyes reflecting sincerity. "You've demonstrated dignity and respect for others, qualities that surpass anything I've seen in others here. From now on, you will be the new manager of this dealership." The young man, after a moment of stunned silence, finally nodded, smiling softly. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." David looked at him, his eyes glowing with trust. "I believe you'll do well. This is your chance. Never forget, in this line of work, patience and respect are everything." With this decision, the car dealership underwent more than just a managerial change. It experienced a shift in spirit. The remaining employees came to understand that treating customers fairly was the key to success, and arrogance would lead nowhere. David, with his humility and integrity, had taught them a profound lesson about treating others and the true vanities of their work. David's story, from a wealthy yet modest man to a determined leader transforming corporate culture, became an enduring lesson for all. He proved that humility is not only a personal virtue, but also a key to long-term success in work and life. No one should judge others by their appearance or attire, for everyone has their own value and story. Most importantly, respecting every customer, no matter who they are or where they come from, is essential for building a sustainable and trustworthy business environment. This is a lesson not just for the employees of the car dealership, but for anyone in the service industry. Respect, fairness, and humility will always lead to lasting success, while arrogance and disrespect only pave the way to failure. Harrison succeeded not only in improving the dealership, but also in elevating its reputation, turning it into a symbol of positive change and outstanding customer service.